Let her she'll call them a meeting to order.
Well, can I call it to order without a quorum? Good afternoon, everyone, but we don't yet have a quorum, but I'll call the meeting to order and we'll move forward with the Friends presentation, right?
Oh, well, how about the advisory council first, because Connie's not ready, right?
No, I'm ready.
Are you all ready?
I'm so used to going last
Oh,
that I
okay.
feel like I can't go first.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the advisory council, sorry. So,
Okay, I can do that.
perfect.
I have the attendance sheets of the last two meetings of the advisory council. So I know these are sent digitally to the office, but I thought sometimes people like to have it when they're riding home on the subway.
Thank you.
And-
Great reading for the subway.
Absolutely.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. And in case someone shows up late, I'll leave an extra one there. Here. Okay. I'm done. So the advisory council has had two meetings since I presented. For those of you who are new on the advisory council, this is my fourth time as chair of the advisory council. We rotate every 3 years, so that means for 12 years, maybe it could be 15, that I rotated as chair. The work of the advisory council in the last 6 months is concentrated mostly on quality of life issues. We usually do that. As chair, I've always had some confusion between the community boards, resolutions, and the advisory councils. So we've sort of had to negotiate that. I mean, just for example, the Pier 40 resolution was 10 pages long. We don't have the capacity. We meet once every 2 months. It would be, to advise you, would be most of the people that are around in community are advising you through the community board process. With that said, the advisory council has taken on quality of life issues. We meet all the time with the PEP offices. Deborah comes to all of our meetings, as well as Noreen and other staff. There's a lot of give and take on the problems, the quality of life problems. We have e-bikes are a problem not only in Hudson River Park, but all over the city. And the advisory council has taken the lead on some of that. It is the only resolution that we've passed, to my memory, in the last 3 years. So there are some governance issues being raised these days about the advisory council. I'm happy, since I've been around so long, to address them. We are accepting 3 more members to the advisory council. At our next meeting, for non-attendance, 2 have left. And I think I will continue to work on governance and safety during my tenure as the advisory chair. That's it. Can I be of help? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline.
Good afternoon. I'm certainly glad I didn't decide to come late to this meeting.
Thank you.
Friends is working right now on the October 17th gala preparations. We have about 19 tables left to sell and some additional talent to confirm, but everybody's very excited, and we have a new venue to go to this year where basically nobody has been yet, so it'll be really fun both for us and the guests to be someplace new. Our volunteer season is winding down. I think we have had about 1,500 volunteers so far. We have an additional 2 months to go with corporate groups coming throughout October and into November for their community service days, and also our Green Team, which is an every other Saturday group, will continue coming probably through bulb planting season. Our neighborhood gardeners work kind of independently on their own a couple days a week. They each have a particular zone where they know exactly where they're going to go and what they're going to do and kind of treat it like their own backyard. And they do this pretty much through the end of November when it starts getting a little bit too cold to do gardening. We're also recruiting volunteers now for fall events that are done in partnership with the Trust, like the Submerge Marine Science Festival at the end of September and Bulbtoberfest in October. We'll also help with the Pumpkin Smash composting event that will take place in November after Halloween. We are gearing up for our year-end Friendship Drive, which is our largest annual membership and small donor campaign, and that will begin in early December and go through the end of the year. We're also putting together our marketing materials for the Pier 26 Play Area Capital Campaign. We will be having our first house party, which is called a Give Where You Live, that will be targeting donations for the capital campaign in Tribeca with a group of families that live right across the street from the future playground site. And on the advocacy side, we're going to be shifting some of our focus away from Greenwich Village, where we spent a lot of advocacy time this year with Pier 40, and up to the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood that has been a little bit neglected as far as advocacy goes, and begin with our first, what we call a community friend raiser at somebody's house up in Hell's Kitchen. They will invite friends, neighbors, associates who are from the neighborhood to get familiar with the park and some of the issues that are facing the northern part of the park. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thanks. Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I think we have a quorum now. Nice. So with the quorum being present, I now call to order the September 18th, 2019 meeting of Hudson River Park Trust Board of Directors. The directors have received the agenda materials in advance of the meeting and are free to ask questions or comment at any time on the action items submitted for approval today. Please note, however, that questions or comments from the audience are not entertained at this meeting. We have two items on the consent agenda for this meeting: the approval of the minutes of the July 24th, 2019 board meeting and the amendment to the Governance Committee charter and appointment of committee members. Unless anyone has any comments on the consent agenda, I will now call for a motion to approve the minutes of July 24th, 2019 board meeting and the amendment to the Governance Committee charter and appointment of committee members. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Pam. Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. And any opposed? Then the motion is approved. The next item before the board is a request for authorization to enter into a contract with Abel Baines and Butts LLP for Chelsea Waterside Park Plaza to design. Ms. Wills.
Thank you very much. Chelsea Waterside Park was originally designed and built by New York State Department of Transportation as part of the Route 9A project and opened to the public in 2000. The ball fields, dog run, playgrounds, and other components of the park receive heavy use, and as a result, the Trust has undertaken several capital reconstruction projects within this park area, including most recently the new playground, which was completed in August of 2018. The Trust now intends to proceed with the next phase of improvements to Chelsea Waterside Park 2.0, which will include the design and construction of a new comfort station, or a first comfort station, expansion to the dog run and picnic area. All of these improvements have been requested and are supported by Community Board 4. Pardon me. The Trust received 10 proposals in response to its request for proposals for Chelsea Waterside Park Phase 2 design services. Upon completion of proposal review and interviews, the selection committee determined that Abel Baines and Butts was the best qualified consultant to provide these services. ABB has done previous work for the Trust, including as the landscape designer for the Greenwich Village Park section. ABB proposed a favorable fee of $868,132 for the design services. ABB has committed to meeting the MWBE goal of 30% and SDVOB goal of 6%. Funding for this project is made available by the sale of air rights to Block 675. The trust therefore requests board authorization to enter into a contract with Abel Banks and Butts LLP for Chelsea Waterside Park Phase 2 design services for an amount up to $868,132 plus a 10% contingency for a total board authorization of up to $954,946.
Any questions or comments?
I can't believe 2000 was 20 years ago. It's kind of freaky.
I don't think that we can move.
Well,
that kind of
almost.
happen. Right.
Otherwise, so moved.
Okay, so I'm going to, that's a motion to authorize the contract with Abel Bates and Butts LLP for the Chelsea Waterside Park Phase 2 design. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is approved. The next item before the board is a request for authorization to enter into a contract with Community Electric, Inc. for on-call electrical services and Pier 40 sports field perimeter lighting replacement. Ms. Wills.
Thank you. The perimeter lighting at Pier 40 Sports Field is in need of replacement in order to provide sufficient lighting for park patrons using the fields and to make sure the fields are more secure. The trust intends to remove the existing fluorescent lighting system and replace it with a new energy-efficient LED lighting system, which will help reduce electric bills. The trust is also in need of an on-call electrician to perform park-wide on-call electrical services, such as regular and emergency electrical repairs and maintenance. Pursuant to its procurement guidelines, the trust evaluated 7 submissions received in response to its request for proposals for on-call electrical services and Pier 40 Sports field perimeter lighting replacement pursuant to the evaluation criteria set forth in the RFP. The Trust Selection Committee determined that Community Electric was best qualified consultant to provide the electrical services. Community Electric proposed a lump sum of $158,000 for the Pier 40 Sports Field perimeter LED lighting work and hourly rates for its on-call services that Trust staff determined to be reasonable and presented the best value to the Trust. There are limited subcontracting opportunities for this contract, so the Trust will request a waiver of the MWBE 30% goal from the Governor's Office. The Trust issued the waiver of the SDVOB 6% goal prior to releasing the RFP. Funding for this contract is available through the Trust capital maintenance and operating budget. The Trust therefore requests board authorization to enter into contract with Community Electric, Inc. for on-call electrical services and Pier 40 Sports Field perimeter lighting replacement for amount up to $300,000 plus a 15% contingency for a total board authorization of up to $345,000 for a 3-year term. Any questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Are these tower lights?
Yes.
How tall are they?
These are the
Oh, there's
lights-
not,
these are the lights that illuminate the walkway around the base of the field,
okay, and not the field itself? Not the
not the field itself.
field itself, okay.
Okay, I was gonna say, what an incredible deal.
Because the tall ones are like 75,000
That's a whole
Yeah.
different picture.
Yeah. or 250.
Any other questions or comments?
So they're under a overhang?
Correct.
Okay.
If not, I will call for a motion to authorize the contract with Community Electric, Inc. for on-call electrical services and Pier 40 Sports Field perimeter lighting replacement.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is approved. The next item before the board is a request for authorization to enter into contracts for on-call general contracting services. Ms. Wills.
Thank you. The trust has identified a need to engage one or more on-call contractors who can address various repair and maintenance work that may come up from time to time at the park. Trust staff became aware that Battery Park City Authority currently has contracts with 5 on-call contractors for such general contracting services pursuant to an RFP process that the authority undertook late last year. The contractors include Deborah Bradley, who we have a lot of experience with, Paul J. Scariano, D'Onofrio General Contractors, Stalco Construction, and Greenway USA. Trust staff now wishes to engage into a piggyback contract consistent with the trust procurement guidelines with one or more of the contractors to provide on-call general contracting services as needed. The general construction contracts would be for an amount to be determined by the trust based on available work in the park and would be for a 33-month term consistent with the term for the contracts between Battery Park City Authority and the individual general contractor. Funding will be available from the Trust's annual operating budget as approved by the Board of Directors each year. The Trust therefore requests board authorization to enter into one or more contracts with one or more of the contractors selected by Battery Park City Authority for on-call contracting services for a term not to exceed 33 months and a total of up to $900,000 plus a 10% contingency for a total board authorization of $990,000. Questions?
So who's doing this work today?
We don't have anyone doing this work today.
So if there's not a specific contract for a specific pier and something breaks, it's out of the trust staff.
So if the trust cannot fix it, we then determine if it's an emergency repair, or we see if we may have an open contract in which we can do this work, or we have to go RFP it. So this is something that we had wanted to do, and Battery Park City has had a lot of success. They brought on a contractor before this. They thought it would really help them a lot, and then they just did this RFP, and they're very satisfied with it.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I will call for a motion to authorize the trust to enter into one or more contracts with one or more contractors selected by the Battery Park City Authority for on-call general contracting services. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is approved. Thank you. That completes the board action items for approval today. I would now like to ask Ms. Wills to give the president's report.
Thank you. And after the president's report, we should have a discussion, or during the president's report, please ask questions as we go along, and also bring up any subject matter that you'd like to, since this is a particularly short board meeting this month. I'm sure to everyone's delight. So I won't try to draw it out, but please feel free to discuss whatever you'd like. The 2019 Summer Fun was extremely successful this past summer with record number at all events. The Blues Barbecue Festival, held on August 24th on a perfect weather day, was at capacity with over 7,000 persons in attendance. There was even a line waiting to get into Pier 97 during the later afternoon for the barbecue. Sunset Salsa also continues to be a season favorite, drawing 2,000 to 3,000 dancers per session every week. Our kids' programs have increased in popularity with more than 300 regularly attending performances in Tribeca every week. Our next large events include the Submerged Marine Science Festival, to be held on Saturday, September 28th, where we expect thousands of people from all over the city to participate. I think we had 8,500 last year. And this is all about citizen science. And also, the second annual Pumpkin Smash is scheduled for November 2nd. That's a personal favorite of mine because I get to take a bat and smash pumpkins, and I recommend it for everyone. All pumpkins smashed are composted in our facility and used in our wonderful black gold that's distributed throughout our park. And both of these events are family favorites and draw participants who are supportive of the park's sustainability initiatives. I also want to mention that the Pier 54 Esplanade is now open to the public. The Esplanade walkway seating and plantings were completed on August 28th, although we do plan to plant some additional bulbs in October that would bloom next spring. We also have arranged for another tour of Pier 55 for board members on September 26th. The tour is full, so I will be happy to arrange another time in October if any of you are interested. This past Saturday, releasing a 275-pound gabion full of thousands of oysters next to Pier 26, Governor Cuomo announced an initiative to restore marine and freshwater habitats statewide, including the goal of creating approximately 4 acres of enhanced habitat for 5 to 10 million oysters in the Hudson River Park Estuarine Sanctuary. We were very busy with this initiative. In addition to our 15 oyster research stations and our 12 oyster wraps already sited within Hudson River Park, we are now already the largest site of oyster redeployment in New York City. The not-for-profit Red Save Lives campaign is a global art program bringing top street artists together to create visually engaging public murals to drive engagement and awareness around the AIDS fight ahead of the Global Fund Replenishment Conference, which is hosted by President Macron in Paris. Supported by the Gates Foundation, Merck, and One, the campaign will produce 20 murals in major cities around the world from September 18th through October 23rd. Scott Powers, who is a local artist and has had many museum shows, including at the Brooklyn Museum, will paint the mural, which will not look like this quite. This is really just a photograph on top of a photograph. Paint this on the south side of the Pier 40 building, and this shows his appreciation to LGBT nightlife landmarks in the area of Pier 40. The artwork commences this week and will stay up until the facade is painted as part of the Pier 40 restoration work, which will take place next spring. Any questions? I know the board had several emails on this past week. In coordination with Community Board 2, the Trust organized a very successful community meeting on July 24th to unveil the Gansevoort Peninsula conceptual design. Approximately 80 members of the public, including representatives from the sports, boating, and habitat constituencies, were in attendance and were shown a concept design with different sized fields. The designs were enthusiastically received by both CB2 and the general public. The Trust determined to move forward with the larger ball field, and the design was shown again at the CB2 Parks and Waterfront Committee on September 4th, where it was again enthusiastically received. As well as these 2 larger public meetings, the Trust recently held smaller working meetings with the habitat and boating representatives to help further refine the southern edge design, which is being done as we speak. As shown on the PowerPoint, the proposed design includes a salt marsh on the north side with viewing nooks, a 316-foot by 220-foot sports field, a lawn, and a pine grove area in this section, an upland beach with a riprap edge for resiliency, and a kayak landing on the southern edge. It will also have a riverfront promenade on the western edge, which will celebrate the old 13th Avenue, and a park operations building, comfort station, and small concession on the northeast side of the peninsula. The design team is currently tweaking the schematic design, particularly the southern edge, in response to the boating meeting, and we expect to complete design by late spring, early summer 2020, and we will be giving our design committee an update when we get the new schematic designs. Any questions on this?
And you said that the trust decided to go ahead with the larger ball field. When was that decision made?
It was made it was a metamorphosis out of the community board meeting where there was a lot more constituency for the larger ball field. And we were able to, so it was not a decision of the board, but it was what was determined to be what the community wanted. And we were able to not lose any of the lawn or any of the other aspects of the site design that were important to other constituencies. And because of that, we felt that everyone was going to be served by this design. Any questions about that? If we were not able to successfully be able to hold on to some of these other aspects and design criteria, I think it would have been a different course of action. But the 316 feet managed to get us a U13, and we were able to squeeze enough so that we were able to get the size ball field that we thought would make most people happy. Pursuant to the Trust revenue guidelines, the Trust is in the process of preparing RFPs for a number of existing concessions with terms that will expire this fall, including the Pier 62 Carousel, Pier 84 Bicycle Rental at the West 44th Street Building, Pier 25 Marina, and Pier 25 Food and Recreation Concession, which we often refer to as mini golf and volleyball. We expect to post these RFPs on the Trust website and in the New York State Contract Reporter over the next week, over the next month. Any questions about that? On September 10th, the Trust posted a request for expressions of interest for long-term historic vessel docking on its website and in the New York State Contract Reporter. Responses are due November 14th, 2019. The Trust is seeking interest in long-term historic vessel docking and programming at 2 berths on the north side of Pier 25, 1 berth on the north side of Pier 26, and 1 berth, depending on water depth, in a location to be determined at Pier 97, where actually it's quite shallow. The Pier 25 berths will be available spring 2020. The Pier 26 berth would be available in spring 2021, and the Pier 97 berth should be available in 2022. We've done a lot of outreach here, and we continue to do outreach. Based on the responses received, the Trust may choose to negotiate and enter into a concession agreement with 1 or more respondents, issue a subsequent RFP for to clarify any of the proposals, or cancel the RFEI.
So the idea would be that historic vessels would provide a concession?
So the purpose of the historic vessels is to provide programming that is consistent with our mission. So every boat that's in the park, whether it has food or events, or it has to provide enough programming, maritime programming, environmental programming, that it's considered consistent. The biggest issue that we have right now is that a lot of the park is getting silted in, and water depths are becoming compromised pretty much everywhere. So we need to see whether we can still have boats pretty much at 25 and 26. 97 is a little bit more questionable. 25 is a little deeper, but certain sections are getting actually more silted in. But that's where it was dredged after 9/11, so it's still a little bit deeper than in a lot of parts of the park. But pretty much the water depths, pretty much in Hudson River Park, are, some of them are knee deep, a little bit deeper than that in some sections, but it's pretty shallow. Okay. If the trust, if the trust does proceed with negotiating one or more concession agreements, all the agreements that we discussed, the expected term will vary between 3 to 5 years with possible extensions, possibly up to 9 years. Respondents can offer a limited amount of commercial activities that are consistent with the Hudson River Park Act, but such activities must also, as I said, complement the existing uses at the piers and the overall park. For instance, the trust will be evaluating whether the proposed business models further the trust mission of enhancing public awareness of New York Harbor's rich maritime history and increases the public's ability to learn about such history. All respondents must also provide free or low-cost educational programming. I will provide the directors a further update at the November board meeting after the trust has received responses to the RFEIs, and obviously you can see everything that we collect. Are there any questions? Okay. As discussed at our last meeting, the trust issued an RFP for a Pier 40 seismic engineering study. The trust received 7 proposals on the submission due date of September 6, 2019. Trust staff is currently reviewing the proposals and undertaking due diligence to see if the scope needs further clarifying. Upon further review, we may determine to amend the scope. I'll keep you all informed of the status of this review as we go along. The trust also met recently with some members of the board and the Hudson River Park Foundation to discuss the estuarium. The trust is gathering and reviewing past information on aquaria and is planning on releasing an RFP for a design of a small aquarium exhibit. In the past, the Hudson River Foundation has engaged Cambridge 7, who develops and designs aquariums. So we do have some information, and we're taking this and folding into a new scope of work. This will help inform the size needed for the back of the house to support this type of exhibit. Thoughts on that? Okay. And as you know, based on recommendations in the past from several board members and consistent with practices of other public authorities, most board approvals for construction and service contracts are now for a term that is longer than 1 year to avoid repeatedly going back to the board to amend contracts to extend their terms. Public Authorities Law Section 28793 nonetheless requires an annual review by the Board of Service Contracts with a term in excess of 1 year. Going forward, the trust intends to provide the directors each year in September a list of all active contracts. The trust has provided you that list of currently active contracts in your board packet today. And if anyone has any questions about any of the contracts, or if you think the directors should discuss or review any of these contracts with a term longer than 1 year, please let me know. In reviewing the list, you will notice that there are many contracts on the trust system as active, but work has already been completed. Recently, trust staff implemented with the new business system, new internal contract closeout procedures to facilitate contract closeout when the work is complete and final payment has been made. So a number of the contracts listed on the table in your board packet will be closed out soon. And some of the other contracts, we are either asking contractors to come back to make repairs, do final punch list work, and therefore some of the other contracts have not been closed out yet. Any questions on that? Okay. Included also in your board packet are the PEP statistics, a list of all contracts between $100,000 and $200,000, the financials for the first 5 months of fiscal year 1920. Total operating revenues of $15,579,677 and operating expenses of $12,468,292 are right on target with budget estimates. Any questions about the budget? Okay. Is there anything else that the board would like to discuss? All right, so I also want to welcome some new trust staff members. Justin Camos, a new property manager. Justin Hayes, our new research and aquaria coordinator. Tobin Kister, our environmental educator. And Julie Kabelka, our new executive assistant. Julie. Julie is the one who now contacts you and makes sure you show up at these meetings. So that completes my presence report, unless anybody, once again, would like to discuss anything else. Oh, sorry? Oh, Evan, you should have been on this. Evan William, our new senior project manager for design and construction. I'm sorry, Evan.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Wells. Is there any further business?
Well, we're all kind of quiet, but I can't think of anything cracking my brain.
Hearing none, there being no further approval items to consider today, may I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being so good about showing up for the forum. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.